Because, again, the Pope is visiting us this coming January 2014 on a kind of ecclesiastical, evangelical visit, but that will be Cebu and Bohol, and of course Manila. In Manila, again, my university, the Pontifical University of Santo Tomas, will meet the Pope. I've seen several popes already. For one lifetime, I've seen so many, at least 4 Pope Pius, then the John Paul, then John Paul II, Benedict now, Santo Papa Benedicto XVI, Pope Benedict XVI cancelled his trip, but this one is arriving 4, and several saints, John Paul, and of course Mother Teresa. It was most unforgettable, my meeting with Mother Teresa. The regent, the rector, brought me to her. This was on Luneta. This was during the visit of John Paul II. And I want you to meet Professor Lapuz. She's tiny, you know. And I held her hand. It was so soft and it was so small. I thought I was touching the feet of a sparrow. Wow. Mother Teresa. Mother, I said, Mother Teresa. And then, of course, no more until she was proclaimed saint. So my place in heaven is rather assured. I know a saint, 2 saints in fact, John Paul II, Mother Teresa. Does anyone doubt that I'm going to heaven? Between St. Thomas More and St. Thomas Aquinas will be my place, because I was in charge of all the Thomas lecture series of the University of Santo Tomas. In fact, I'm not kidding, the faculty members, they were not so aware of the saint. I became aware not only because of the movie, but because he represented the intellectual power for me. Thomas More. So I wrote an essay on it, and then Father Fermin, my beloved regent, started it, the lecture series. So every year we would have that until I officially was, because of the rules on retirement, etc., though I was invited to teach again. But that is not my topic now. My topic now is the very great influence that the Catholic Church has exerted on Philippine society, especially on Philippine politics. You know very well there would have been no people power were it not for Jaime Cardinal Sin. Alone, Aquino could not have done it. Aquino alone? No. But you see, it was really the Cardinal who invited us to go to that place in Camp Aguinaldo and shield Ponce Enrile and Ramos from the armed forces of Marcos. The famous EDSA revolution. I'm sure many of you have heard of that. 2 or 3 days in February, 22 to 25, something very cold. The atmosphere was cold, the climate was okay. There on EDSA, we had the people power until he stepped down. There was another people power, this time against Estrada, because of the corruption, the depraved culture of that administration. So we had a successful people power. That was when Gloria Arroyo stepped into the presidency. This would be the beginning of 2001. I don't mind telling you, since 2001, until she stepped down, I was the foreign policy advisor of President Arroyo. And what is more, I wrote not all her speeches on foreign policy. Many people would write that, but she wanted my style, always on a blue line, in the computer. So she would know if I did not make any input because there are color blue. So she would ask the secretary where was the contribution of Professor Lapuz, and then there will be a call for me. Nalimutan ko. Can I give it tomorrow at 5 a.m.? I would tell the secretary. And they would pick it up at 4 a.m. I mean at 5 a.m. So, Roman Catholicism in general has a great influence in that country because the Spaniards really emphasized that role. Of course, they conquered us for gold, but also for cross, gold and cross. In fact, the cross was more effective than their search for gold in the Philippines, and the friars, the early friars, were really ideal because they would go to the inwards of a barrio or a poblacion, they will do research, they will study the language, they would establish a church. By the way, most of these churches are architecturally amazing, and that is why our UNESCO made it a legacy spot, one of the treasured places in the Philippines, especially the churches of Ilocos Norte and the whole of Viga. Not the whole, there is a village there which is UNESCO village. But they came to teach. That would be almost how many years? And the university where I was professor for 37 years, it started in 1611, on and on and on and on, until now. Another school was claiming that privilege, Ignacio, but by the Jesuits, but it did not act as a university. Unlike UST offered courses, there were degrees after bishop established it. But my topic in consultation with Clem is what about the history of the Christian Catholic or the Christian Catholic education? First, let me say in the Philippines, 92% or more will be Christians, okay? But 80% of that will be Roman Catholics. 80.9, 2.8 of that will be evangelical, and then 2.3 will be Iglesia ni Cristo, and 2% or less would be Aglipayanos. I was telling my friend, the Reverend Bishop Albano, that it is the sesquicentennial death anniversary of Isabelo de los Reyes, Don Belo, who founded the Philippine the Iglesia Independiente Filipina, the Philippine Independent Church. Oh my God, Professor, but you just arrived. What can you mean? It was not discussed. Well, we know Aglipay. But Aglipay, you see, was a Catholic minister when the Philippine Independent Church was being established, and therefore Isabelo de los Reyes could not be because he was a senator. He was a public figure. So he gave it to this minister of the Catholic Church, Gregorio Aglipay, who was really a church official. It's the same as the Catholic Church, except they don't accept the Pope, like the Anglicans. That is why in this beautiful place in Queen Emma Square, I'm also there every year. They give me a blessing, the Committee of Bishops. At Queen Emma Square in St. Andrew's Church, there is always a Mass celebrated by the Bishop, Albano, Randolph Albano, and I would be invited with my friend Ben, and he would ask me to deliver a lectorial address, whether on Father's Day, Thanksgiving Day, the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. And when I told this to the Dominicans, I said to Father Rolando, I have yet to read a lectorial address in a Catholic church, but Professor, we know you very well. In UST, do you have to deliver a lectorial address? But just the same, the Aglipayan, that is to say, the Philippine Independent Church at Queen Emma Square in Honolulu would do that to me every year. And they would give me the blessing, a committee of them, 4 or 3, to wish me good health for coming. And I addressed their mother chapter on Taft Avenue, the Philippine Independent Church. It is really exactly like the Catholics, except there is no Pope, like the Anglican Church. Well, anyway, the very first school really was opened by the Augustinians in Cebu. This was in Cebu. They arrived 1565. Yes. And the initiative of the Franciscans was only to provide primary instruction upon their arrival in 1578. Immediately they were thinking of a school. The people have to be evangelized. Magellan did that. As soon as he arrived, he evangelized the queen, gifted her with the Niño de Jesus, and that is a tradition up to now. I saw a little of that Niño de Jesus when I spoke at the University of Prague, in Prague, Czech Republic. I was their guest because of Father Blumentritt was of the Czechoslovakian that became Czech Republic. And then I saw the figure of Niño de Jesus, but they call it the Jesus of Prague, dressed in green. We have something like that, but we call it Iglesia Niño de Jesus dressed in red. Whether red or green, that is the infant Jesus. In 1611, which was the year my UST was established, that would be over 400 years ago, Archbishop Miguel de Benavides, Orden de Pecadores, and the Dominican Fathers established the University of Santo Tomas in 1632. Then followed the Colegio de San Juan de Letran, that is also Dominicans, Colegio San Juan de Letran in Manila. But the oldest university is really UST. And in the 400 years of UST, 2011, I was invited by the Society of Catholic Social Scientists of America. The headquarters are in the University of Steubenville, in Steubenville, Ohio, to deliver a talk on the quadricentennial celebration of UST. And the professor, who is also the president of SCSS, took a video of me secretly, because you're not allowed to take videos. Secretly, he placed it there. And so you have only this side, and I was caught with 2 professors, one that was from Stanford, the other from the UCLA professors. So we were together, but it was I delivering my paper. And he gave me a copy of that video. I have it in my YouTube. It is in the YouTube. And the whole UST was astounded because the commemoration of our quadricentennial is only in Sampaloc, Cali, España. But then when I told Father Rolando de la Rosa and Father Lana, do you know it is on YouTube, because I delivered a similar paper on the quadricentennial, not only in UST Medicine, it was also I who delivered that lecture, but another one, but I included the interfaith of culture, interfaith dialogue. Well, it was received well by UST and other people. But they were saying, how did Lapuz have it in the University of Steubenville? Father de la Rosa, leave it to Professor Lapuz and his international connection, he said. Because even they, for all the global knowledge of UST, none really was delivered at the SCSS, Society of Catholic Social Scientists of America. 3 cardinals are members of the governors of the board. One of those cardinals was in the short list in electing a pope to replace the Pope Emeritus, Francis I, when he was elected, and he was a member of the official officers of my society. This is it, the SCSS, the society. The year 1859 Before that, in 1632, the Colegio de Santa Isabel, you know that very well, was the first women's college. It was open. Now it is run by the Daughters of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul, who arrived in 1862. In 1868, they went to Naga City to open a college for girls and to establish the normal school for women. The very first normal school for women in the Philippines, ahead of the Philippine Normal School established by the Americans. I'm speaking of what here? September 18, 1872, at the instance of Bishop Francisco Gainza of the Orden de Pecadores, of the Order of Preachers. Comes the year 1859, some 150 years ago, the Jesuits returned. They were expelled, as you know, and opened the school called Escuela Municipal de Manila, later to become the Ateneo de Municipal, where Jose Rizal studied in his high school, right across the San Ignacio Church in Intramuros. Well, there is no more Jesuit school there. They were bombed by the song, and the rockets, red glare, the bombs, all the bombs fell on Intramuros, including several fell on Escuela Municipal de Manila. But the campus, no more the campus there. They had transferred to Quezon City, to Katipunan Avenue. 1862, 100 years, the Vincentian Fathers came to the Philippines by virtue of an 1852 royal decree of Queen Isabella II of Spain, in order to administer the conciliar seminaries of Manila in Naga City, Cebu City, Iloilo City, Vigan, and to take care of the religious and scientific instruction of the diocesan seminarians and lay students in Colegio Seminarios. That is part of the Catholic education. The year 1904, the First Sisters of St. Paul de Chartres opened the first Paulinian school in Dumaguete, Negros Oriental. And at the year 1906, this would be centennial years ago, the first 4 German Benedictine sisters and 1 novice from Tutzing, Germany, founded the famous St. Scholastica's, a college, German in origin, German Benedictine, in fact. The year 1911, years ago, over 102 years ago, the Brothers of the Christian Schools, known as the La Salle Brothers, well, they opened the first school in the Philippines on General Luray Street, Manila. Up to now, we have the La Salle Brothers. Then came the Beaterios. This is a colonizing power that really emphasized education. The Americans did not do anything like this, except for UP, and of course they introduced the public school system. But what I'm telling you is the Spaniards really emphasized this. Even the Beaterios, this would be the Casa en que viven las religiosas. These are the convent schools. Likewise, provided formation and some instruction. Came 1941, Catholic education institutions organized itself into a powerful lobby group, the Catholic Educational Association of the Philippines. I used to, the rector, and sometimes he would take me in the meetings of saying, believe it or not, they would always mistake me for a Dominican, though my background is UP. Because I'm so identified with UST, Lapuz is a Dominican, but Adrian Cristobal, the famous columnist, wrote a column that is where you are mistaken. The one you are calling a Dominican was in fact a product of UP in 1963, but I'm more identified with the Catholic University. Now, they considered urgent educational issues. You know, education in the Philippines has had a long and rich history. Almost all of the heroes and significant personages in the church and country were products of these Catholic institutions, are national heroes, from Dr. Jose Rizal down to Father Burgos. They were all products of UST, of the University of Santo Tomas. And therefore, that is a rich history, and therefore, I do not exaggerate at all. It is no hyperbole to say that the Catholic education laid the foundations, laid the basis of our education in the country. At the time, UST was the Secretary of Education. That's why the diplomas obtained at that time will carry, even the diploma of Jose Rizal in the Ateneo, it carried La Universidad de Santo Tomas. So the Catholic, you would think it's UST, it's really Ateneo. But UST there is being used as the office of the Secretary of Education. UST, it's a famous acronym. I have used that in political discussion. I said we need UST in the sense that we need unity, S, solidarity, T, teamwork. They thought I was advertising for UST. No, I do not mean my college. I mean unity, solidarity, and teamwork. There were many heroes there, but ethnographic, scientific grammar, catechetical books. The first book was published in UST, Doctrina Christiana. The Doctrina Christiana was published by UST. Now, UST Press is the same UST publishing house. If you visit UST, you ask your guide to bring you to the UST publishing house. That used to be the UST Press, a famous one. It published the first known book from the Philippines, Doctrina Christiana. We are proud of that. I am sure even some Dominicans have not read it because it is mostly about grammar and catechism. This is what they use when they teach those Filipinos they were trying to evangelize. But they are saying now the great cost and sacrifice the founders were inspired by the teaching of the church, of course, to establish these schools. The Americans did not do anything of that kind. They did not say, we are laying down the foundation, or we want you to remember us as your soul. It's really trade and the use for bases and to buy the extra products of the United States when it was turning to be a rich manufacturing industrial country. But the Spaniards really emphasized it. It is to evangelize. I mean, the church had a big role in that. Christian education, I say this, I'm a product of the public school. I am elementary, Burgos Elementary School, my high school, my college was UP. But when I look at the data, I'm ready to say that Catholic education was tasked to develop harmoniously the physical, moral, and intellectual endowments so that they may gradually acquire a mature sense of responsibility in striving endlessly to form their own lives as written in their documents. UST does that. Most of these schools do it. I'm not saying they have been succeeding, but it is their mission. It is their mission. Yet, Christian education does not merely strive for the maturing of a human person, they said. Then they went on to say, the mature nature of the fullness of Christ. That is where they really reveal the true measure, in the full measure of Christ. They are quoting the book of the Ephesians, and strive for the growth of the mystical body. That is an ideal. I am not saying UST products are like that. Moreover, aware of their calling, yes, if they are doctors of medicine, they learn not only how to bear witness to the hope that is in them, this is from the book of Peter, but also how to help in the Christian formation of the world that takes place when natural powers, viewed in the full consideration of man, redeemed by Christ, contribute to the good of the whole society. It's part of the doctrine I am quoting. In the Gravissimum Educationis, it's a Bible to Catholic educators, Gravissimum Educationis. I'm not saying teachers in Catholic universities are like this, but I'm speaking really of the Grand Mission. If you don't know it, once you know it, it might cost you your job. A friend of mine is professor of philosophy in UST, a brilliant one in philosophy, as a matter of fact. He was lecturing on the Immaculate Conception. He was saying how could that be, etc., and the limits of reason. And he was teaching freshmen. And your word goes around. It goes around. We are just a small school. It goes around. It reached the rector. It reached Father Fermin. And Father Fermin invited the professor. You have a critical view of the dogma of the Immaculate Church. Yes, it is my academic freedom. If he said that in UP, that would be good. UP being a state institution. But the Reverend Father said, we call him Reverend Father, he said, but the Dominicans did not establish this school so that people like you can lecture on the criticism of the dogma of the Immaculate Conception. Especially you are teaching sophomores, freshmen. That is all. But the renewal was not renewed the following semester. He is now with us in PUP. He continues to teach, are you now convinced? Did you write a thesis on your own dogma as opposed to the dogma? He forgot all about it. He confessed, I really knew nothing about it, you see. But as a professor, he should say something about the dogma. That is okay, provided nobody reports it, and then you cannot claim academic freedom there. Academic freedom refers to your own specialization, for example, international relations. And then I say something in connection with my specialization. That is where I enjoy academic freedom. But how can I enjoy academic freedom if I pontificate on physics or astronomy? That is no longer academic freedom. It is an error that has to be corrected. That is what the rector told him. Now, from the nature of Christian education and from what has been done in the course of history, few historians will deny that the nation benefited from it. In fact, it is not an exaggeration to say that the establishment of schools in the Philippines has laid the foundations of education in the Philippines. The brief historical survey does not speak of all the 4 centuries accomplishment of Catholic education in the Philippines. Now, it is amazing to notice that those who enroll in UST, I know it very well because I've been there for over 38 years, are not necessarily Catholics. They can be Muslim, they can be of the other faith. That is okay. They are part of the universus, I mean of the universe, of the university. As for theology, that is better left to the Dominicans as they preach the catechism. And if you don't like that, of course, one can always leave UST. This was said to the teachers of Ateneo. Ateneo de Manila does not believe on the papal teaching of the population growth and our opposition to the RH Rehabilitation Reproduction Bill. And the faculty of Ateneo, one whole page of a Daily Inquirer saying this is so, this is nonsense, the Catholic Church does not know what it is talking about, etc., etc., and signed the members of the faculty of the Ateneo de Manila. So that brings quite a confusion to the readers because they know Ateneo de School as a Catholic university. So the rector was confronted with this, I mean the head of Ateneo, and he wrote them a letter. I approve, I respect your freedom to do it, but if you sincerely believe in that freedom, you are welcome to leave Ateneo de Manila. You can leave the Ateneo de Manila. Oh, no one left, you see. They want the comforts of the Ateneo education and the high professorial rate, yet they make fun when the Catholic Church makes a stand. It is confusing even to the students. You see, this is the Ateneo de Manila. Are we bound by, etc.? Are we bound? You know, many teachers there are just teachers. They are not really aware of the background, of the history, of the mission. They only know it as a place where they can get very high, and really very, very high salary as compared with what I am getting in UST. With what I'm getting in UST, you would wonder how I stayed that long. Because I believed in its mission. And that kind of civilized behavior of the Dominicans, they never questioned me on Rizal. For example, and I would teach, Rizal did not retract, did not go back to the Catholic Church because my evidence shows that. Do they question me? No, because Jose David Lapuz is an authority on Rizal. That is his specialization, that is his conclusion on whether Rizal retracted or not. But if I lectured on the dogma of the Immaculate Conception, that is no longer within my specialization. I will certainly be questioned by them. But you see, I can teach that Jose Rizal did not retract. In all Catholic schools, including La Salle and the colleges, Jose retracted what he taught, what he wrote. In my case, Rizal did not retract, did not recant on what he said about the church. Because that was the church of the 19th century. That was the church of the 19th century. And he saw errors and he saw mispractices. He wrote about them. And at the time, he was really a Mason, third degree. I have here the Shriner. I address the Shriners Club here. And I also address another Mason group, the Pythian Society in downtown Hawaii, and that is also Masonic, and that is in my YouTube, and the fathers are not saying anything, because he's discussing his field, international relations, international politics, Philippine foreign policy, RPUS relations. Now, advanced studies, yes, because of the excellent library dating to 17th century, 18th, 19th. Why did that happen? Because take the case of UST. The Dominicans kept records, and they wrote to the mother chapter in Rome, and Rome wrote to them, and they wrote back. All this in records. They are kept on records, you see, and they are rich sources of Philippine history. But you have to dig the collection of the library. Now, you'll be surprised now there is a shortage of teachers because they, believe it or not, they go to public schools, the teachers. It has a higher rate now. There were improvements in the education department. The salary has increased. So if you were a teacher in, let us say, St. Joseph Elementary School, you might go to another elementary school public and you will get a higher rate because the Republic Act, the law says so. They cannot believe we lose, I mean, not UST, but Catholic loses teachers and they go to the public school because that is their freedom, of course. Now, okay, they can close if they can no longer afford the education, but statistics and studies have shown that if Catholic schools close at any given time, the government will not be able to absorb all the students and provide the same quality education many of these schools provide given the present circumstances. No Secretary of Education will say, we are ready to take over. They cannot. Because Catholic schools have been there since the Philippines was discovered. How can you take its place? It cannot. That is an economic fact. And therefore, does that mean the church, the state should finance the church? No, because that will violate our constitutional provision of separation of church and state. You know, I rather emphasize the topic of vision, mission. I believe in that, even in PUP, because I was with Dr. Prudente. He was the one who selected me, and when he died, he was in prison, then he died. I mean, he was released, he died a natural death. I returned to PUP. When I returned to PUP, it's not the same. The vision of nationalism, internationalism, they're no longer there. And then some faculty member would even have the goal to say, you know, we are a polytechnic university. Yeah, do you know why we are a state university? And how did this school start? And the philosophy that followed it. And what is our mission? What is your vision? You know, no teacher really would be able to answer that question. He knows how much he is getting. He knows his lesson plan. But if you ask him, why are you in PUP? Why are you in UST? What do you think is its vision? No, it's closer to my home. I don't have to take those long rides. And I like the pay. And it ends there. We are not required to pray in class. No, it's not a requirement. But I continue to do so because of its mission vision. The other teachers would just appear, hello, and then they talk and talk and talk. And then if there is something scandalous about the church, they do not distinguish between the church and the offenders. You know, I always emphasize, I'm not a religious, although I was invited to be a Catholic, to be a lay Dominican. That is to say, a Dominican laity. I don't have time for that because I will have to enroll in courses. You know, when there are scandals, I hope they will distinguish between the church as an institution and the members thereof, or the offending bishop, the offending cardinal, the offending church. To say that the church is like that, as one faculty member said in an open forum, I corrected him. May I remind you, the church itself is serene and pure as the mystical body of Jesus Christ. But the members thereof can be sinners. I am a member, I am a sinner, one of the great sinners of them all. We are all sinners. But I wish you would make a distinction. There was a quarrel on that in our sesquicentennial foundation at the School of Medicine. Well, I want to call this brief because I don't want to detain you. But may I conclude? I will just say the last paragraph. This is the last paragraph. By way of a personal, sentimental, and autobiographical allusion, I have my own involvement and contribution in Catholic educational institution as a place of education. I was a professor of Rizal, political science and international politics and foreign policy for 37 years. No stop, except for the vacation where I travel to deliver my lectures. I don't even take leave. And therefore, my university teaching years is 9.25%. It was Father De La Rosa who gave me the mathematics. If you were with us for 37 years, that would comprise 9.25% of UST's 400 years. I contributed 9.25% of the 400 years of UST, and after actively and energetically delivering lectures, addresses, symposiums, congresses, seminars, colloquia, conferences, forums, roundtable talks, and other forums, there in the US, even here in Hawaii. You know, I did not know I was being spied on because I arrived something about June, and then I started my broadcast with KPRP twice a week, and then seminars here and there, and then Philippine Honolulu Council, consular. To my surprise, when I addressed an organization, someone represented the office of the mayor. And to my surprise, they gave me, I did not know because they did not ask for my biodata unless if they went to somewhere else. It is the House of Representatives, State of Hawaii, presents the certificate to Professor Lapuz, whereas. Now, therefore, the House of Representatives of the 27th Legislature of the State of Hawaii hereby commends and applauds Professor Lapuz for his extraordinary accomplishments and contributions for the betterment of mankind, and extends to him its warmest aloha and best wishes for continued success in all future endeavors. Signed, Mayor Joseph M. Suki, Speaker of the House, Brian T. Takashita, House Chief of Clerk, and the Representative Joseph Misuno. How did they know this? They know it. Whatever you do here is known. Snowden is correct. We have lost all sense of privacy. Snowden. He said, we are all wired. Misuno. Yes. And of course I'm flattered because not even Aquino received this. 3 times he was a guest in Hawaii. Did it not occur to the State of Representatives of Hawaii to give him at least one? So in any case, I'm telling you that today I feel humbled, exalted, genuinely delighted and honored to be a teacher academician in UST for 37 years, assisting my adopted alma mater, UST, adopted because my biological is UP, to welcome to its groves of academe every ray of genius and brilliance of intellect. And then I said, when the Pope met us in Radio Veritas, I used to have a program on Radio Veritas. The Pope described Veritas and the rest of us in that group and in that country. You represent as the chronicle of Christiani Sapienti Ebicantissimum. You are the most resplendent light of Christian wisdom, said Pope John Paul II. Now, St. John, may God sustain UST and the Catholic colleges with their constant and unceasing guidance. To me, as a UP, UST to me, this is the final, is an agent of intellectual evolution. But he is also an agent of intellectual revolution. That is UST, and that is what Catholic education represents for me in my sharing with you. I did not read my whole paper.
But before you end,
yes,
Professor, well, we are not to be outdone.
I know you cannot be outdone.
And first of all, I would
they
like
may
to
try,
thank
but
you
they
very
cannot.
much.
Thank you, Dr. Patricia.
For presenting to us, and on behalf of FASO, Filipino American Historical Society of Hawaii, we would like to present this recognition to you. Not to be outdone, yes.
No, you have not.
Yes.
Filipino American, wow, Historical Society,
Yes.
to Professor Lapuz. There it is, Christian and Catholic Education in the Philippines. May I also remind you, 2 days ago, 2019, was the birthday, 153rd birthday of Dr. Jose Rizal. The Knights of Rizal forgot all about it. They had nothing, not even nothing.
No,
You see?
remember.
Yes, but this was only, today is 22, 21, say 3 days ago.
Yes.
The great Filipino celebrated his 153rd birth anniversary.
Well, we admire all your efforts.
Thank
We
you.
want to thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Clem, for this honor and this opportunity. Thank you to Gina for the excellent way she receives us, those food. Thank you for the audience. It matters not whether 3 or 300 or 400 or the whole medicine auditorium.
Yeah.
What is important is I communicate even only to one. Did not Christ say, even if there are only 2 of you, there I am in the midst of you.
That's right.
You don't have to number 10 or 20 or 100.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the privilege.
Brian?